Previously, when Callia and Gallus were enjoying Lua Town's main festival, Callia suddenly noticed a crying girl at a distance covered in dirt. The girl was Isla, who informed a lady that her friends had gone into the fairy forest. With a gruesome expression, the lady instructed Isla to inform Lady McKenna about her daughter that she had gone into the forest. Hearing her servant's name, Callia quickly went to her mansion where McKenna begged her to grant her half-day leave. And as Gallus informed Callia that the forest rangers still hadn't gone into the forest, Callia declared that she would go herself to save those missing kids. She reasoned that she would also be a mother in a few months and couldn't afford to lose McKenna's sweet smile while she talked about her daughter. Later, moving inside the fairy forest, Callia sensed a wild beast like an wolf's footprints going deep inside the forest. Before she could think further, the beast appeared from nowhere. Observing this, Callia swiftly activated her sword and struck lethal blows upon the wolf. Injured, the wolf cowardly ran away and disappeared into the forest. Meanwhile, Gallus fell in love with Callia's swordsmanship and reflected that she was blessed to witness this fight. So, let's dive into the chapters 34 and 35 of the manhwa, The Baby Isn't Yours. As Callia and Gallus move deeper into the fairy forest, they find some strange mushrooms taller than the average height of a human. Perplexed, Gallus wonders why these psychedelic mushrooms are so surprisingly big, as they are generally small. Meanwhile, Callia mentions that these mushrooms produce hallucinogenic powder, and if they cut them from stem, they will create illusions around them. She then warns Gallus to step back, as if they get trapped in an illusion, they will lose their minds. Hearing this, Gallus quickly falls back and worriedly states that these mushrooms are so scary. To this, Callia frightens Gallus even more, mentioning that they could die right here and become the mushroom's nutrients. In the midst of this, a beautiful fairy with blonde hair and green eyes just like Callia appears behind a tree. Shocked to find two humans in the fairy forest, the fairy delivers a goddess-like smile and waves her hand to express a warm hello to them. Noticing the fairy, Callia's heart begins to race and her eyes widen in astonishment. Gallus, observing Callia's strange behavior, she asks what's wrong. To which, Callia questions if Gallus can see the fairy standing behind the tree, but Gallus answers no. Listening to this, Callia assumes that she must be hallucinating as she saw a strange and beautiful fairy. Gallus inquires if there are fairies living in the forest, to which Callia responds probably. She then wonders why a fully grown fairy would be walking alone in the forest, because fairy elves are closely linked to each other, making it rare to see an actual one out there. And if she is roaming freely, there must be other fairies around them. Meanwhile, the fairy quickly hides herself behind the tree, at which Callia wonders if she is really hallucinating or if there is an actual fairy. To scrutinize, Callia springs towards the tree, causing the fairy to flinch heavily. The fairy hides herself again, but she didn't realize that she is completely visible to Callia somehow. Pointing her finger, Callia asks if Gallus is really unable to see the fairy behind that tree, to which Gallus responds that there is no one standing behind the tree. Confused, Callia wonders if she is really hallucinating or if she has some kind of powers. Enraged, Callia questions herself if that gullible fairy is really hiding or playing with her. However, Callia turns away and reflects that she can force the fairy to reveal her identity, but she must prioritize finding the kids first. Later, as Callia follows the beast's footprints, she eventually loses the trail of the lichen wolf. Sensing this, Callia mentions that she hears the sound of water in the distance and commands Gallus to go that way. Suddenly, the fairy grabs Callia's hand from behind. Noting the fairy's tight grip, Callia's baby begins to kick inside her with great force. Astonished, Callia wonders why her baby is even reacting to this fairy's touch, as the fairy seems so weak that she herself can't feel any sign. With a perplexed look, Gallus questions if Callia is standing there because of the fairy she mentioned. Hearing this, Callia shifts her gaze upon the fairy, who is behaving like a child and trying to drag her somewhere. And as Callia swiftly inquires if the fairy can speak words, the fairy telepathically communicates that she can't say long sentences. Yet, Callia coldly expresses that she doesn't have time to mess around as she has to find the missing kid. Callia asks if the fairy wants to bring her to a place, to which the fairy smiles and nods her head. Observing this, Callia declares that she'll follow the fairy but also threatens that if the fairy leads her somewhere the kids aren't, she will destroy her right away. However, the fairy does not get scared and telepathically communicates that Callia can never do that to her. The fairy then requests Callia to come along in a particular direction. Callia reflects that though following a fairy is risky, she wants to trust her more. Dear viewers, apologies for the interruption. If you're genuinely enjoying the content on this channel, please consider hitting the subscribe icon with all notifications, since this little support of yours will help this creator continue delivering high-quality work to brighten your day. And take a moment at the end of the video to leave a comment, sharing your thoughts on the content. Your feedback means a lot. Now, let's not take up too much of your time and jump back into the story. After some minutes, they arrive at a garden full of spirits and flowers. There, Gallus becomes heavily animated mixed with a perplexed feeling, as she witnesses numerous little spirits floating in the air and even around Callia. Springing up, Gallus shouts and asks if she is hallucinating. Suddenly, the little spirits start to hover around Gallus and play with her, to which Callia wonders if she can see spirits too. Callia then gazes at the fairy, wondering why Gallus can't see this big elf spirit as the fairies have more powers. Suddenly, Callia inquires where the missing kids are and if they are in danger. Listening to this question, the fairy clearly flinches and starts to show confused signs. Yet, a little spirit extends its mouth near the fairy's ear and whispers something. Learning some news, the fairy's happy expression turns into a gruesome one. Grabbing Callia's hand, the fairy suggests her to go back from where she came. Perplexed, Callia questions why and states that she doesn't have time to play with her. With a terrified look, the fairy desperately warns Callia about the danger ahead and begs her to return. However, Callia snatches her hand from the fairy's grip and yells that she can't endure her tantrum anymore. And as Callia discovers the same footprints of the lichen wolf, she commands Gallus to let's follow them. Anxious, the fairy pleads with Callia in broken words to believe her and avoid going further. Suddenly, a bird spirit arrives towards the fairy and informs the fairy of something. And as she learns the news, she smiles wide eyes and a big mouth. Meanwhile, deep inside the fairy forest, Callia reflects that despite walking for 5 hours, her body seems fine and she also doesn't feel any pain. But on the contrary, her body feels better after entering the forest. Plus, she also brought her teleportation scroll with herself. And when she finds the missing kids, she will use her scroll to teleport out of the forest. Callia then recalls her past meeting with Shyman, where he mentioned that if a normal person uses the scroll without knowing, the person can twist the space unknowingly, causing an explosion. However, since Callia will always have him by her side, she doesn't have to worry about that. Snapping out of her thoughts, she wonders why she is thinking about him at this moment. Later, when they arrive at a cave-like entrance, Callia easily enters it, but somehow, Gallus is restricted by an invisible barrier. Falling to the floor with great force, Gallus informs Callia that something just pushed her back. Scrutinizing the place, Callia realizes that this is the border of the deep forest. Perplexed, Gallus asks if this place is the magic border of the deep forest made by the fairies. Then how is it possible for Callia to enter in without any resistance? To this, Callia also gets baffled, but before she can say something further, she notices lichen wolf's blood. Nervous, she wonders if this is the fairies' territory. Then how can beasts get in here? Suddenly, they hear a loud noise from inside the cave. Gallus, sensing that Callia is in great danger on the other side of the barrier, she uses all her force to break the barrier to protect her. However, the magic barrier doesn't break at all and her very efforts goes to futile. Noting this, Callia grabs Gallus's hand and quickly pulls her inside the magic barrier. Springing up with joy, Gallus expresses that she finally got in and will be able to protect Callia. She then thanks Callia for helping her to get inside the magical barrier. To this, Callia mentions that she will think about this strange incident later, as their first priority is to find the kids. From here, the scene shifts to the other side of the forest, where a 7-foot man with a masculine body is sleeping beside a magical tree. And as a magic bird caresses the man's cheek, he mutters that they are searching for her daughter Kia. He then asks the bird if Callia and Gallus coming this way. Meanwhile, the same beautiful fairy arrives by following the magical bird, and as she sees the masculine man, her eyes widen with happiness. Running towards the man with bare feet at full speed, she embraces the big man with a tight grip. Rubbing his hard skin against her soft cheek, the man refers to the fairy as his daughter Kia and asks if she is doing well. Caressing her head gently, he apologizes Kia for being so late. He then expresses that he has a surprise birthday present for her. As he reaches into his pocket to take out the present, Kia remembers her previous encounter with Callia and requests her father to come with her to a particular place. Hearing this, the man asks if Kia wants to have fun together at the place she wants to go. Meanwhile, moving deeper inside the dark cave, Callia finds even more blood prints. Gallus states that it's so dark inside and it's dangerous for Callia to go further. However, as Gallus herself shakes clearly with fear, Callia reflects that she should worry for herself instead. Observing Callia's wide gaze upon herself, Gallus clarifies that she is not doubting her ability but is simply worried for her safety, as she is pregnant and needs to be protected by someone every moment. With shaking legs, Gallus steps in front of Callia and declares that she will sacrifice herself for her, to which Callia states there's no need to do that. Yet, Gallus adds that despite her lack of strength, she will give her life to protect her. Suddenly, Callia throws a crystal ball in front of them and requests Gallus to close her eyes to avoid injury. After a few seconds, the crystal ball bursts with a loud noise, spreading glittering material inside the cave and illuminating every corner. Perplexed, Gallus asks what this is. Chuckling, Callia explains that she brought it in case if Gallus found it difficult to protect her, as the luminous balls will help in checking the surrounding. activating her sword's ultimate power. Callia commands Gallas to finish their mission before they both get scolded by Alan. As we wrap up today's segment, thank you for being with us until the very end. I'll be sharing fresh videos of this manga and exciting new series every weekend. Your support is invaluable, so please subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay updated. Your encouragement keeps the channel thriving, and I appreciate it immensely. Until next time, take care and goodbye.